Hello, my name is Isaac Fisher. I'm a family law attorney in California, and I'd like to talk to you today about child support in California and how we calculate it. I'm going to talk about some very basic concepts just to keep this short, um, or relatively short. And every state has their own formula for calculating child support, and we call those a guideline, but you can think of it as a formula. And some states copy California, and some states have a different formula altogether. So keep that in mind if you're in another state. If you're in California, then this will apply to you. And I'm going to use a program called XSpouse that we use to calculate child support. And there's another competing program that some people use, but they should come up with the same result. Um, as you can see, there are two columns, one for father and one for mother. And we input information into each variable, and it will tell us what the amount of child support is going to be, what the guideline amount is going to be. And I'm going to make sure that we're not including spousal support since we're not going to be dealing with spousal support. And you can see the program defaults to mother having primary custody of one child and father having 20% timeshare, which means that father spends probably about every other weekend with the child, and that usually comes out to about 20%. But we can change these around. We can change it so that the father is the primary custodial parent and the mother is the non-custodial parent. But just for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to keep it the way it defaults. And we're going to come back to this variable, the percentage of timeshare, after we put in some income information so we can see how that impacts child support. I'm not a tax attorney, so you should talk to a tax professional if you are involved in this situation and need tax advice, but I'm going to go over some of the basic tax principles. You can see the program defaults to father filing single and mother filing head of household, and that's because she's the primary custodial parent. The primary custodial parent gets to file head of household, and the other parent usually files single, although if they're married to another person in a new marriage, then they would probably be filing joint with their new spouse. But again, we'll keep that to the default single. The exemptions, it defaults to father having one exemption, which would be himself, and mother having two exemptions, which would be herself and this child. We can change those around also, and the IRS allows the non-custodial parent to use the exemption if the primary custodial parent agrees to that. And sometimes it makes more sense to give the exemption to the non-custodial parent if the non-custodial parent earns more money, because you're usually maximizing your tax benefit by giving it to the high earner. That's not always true, but usually it's true. We next put in each party's gross monthly income, and we can put that in monthly, annually, weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, or hourly. Why don't we just put in $10,000 a month for now? So we've got $10,000 of monthly income for father, and we'll put $6,000 in for mother. We're going to leave a lot of these variables blank because I don't really have time to go through them all. But this is self-employment income, other taxable income, child support received, other non-taxable income, new spouse income. That can be an interesting area because it can affect child support in a way you might not think. And we might come back to that briefly. But this is where we would put in a new spouse income so that if father did remarry, we would put his new spouse's income here, or if mother remarried, put that in here. We're going to skip all of these and go down to health insurance, which is pretty straightforward. It's what each party pays for health insurance a month. And we'll put in $300 because that's a pretty typical amount. And we'll put $100 for mother. We're going to leave the other medical expenses, property tax expenses, deductible interest expense blank. We're required union dues. If either one of them are a member of a union, then they probably pay union dues. And usually those are about $60 a month, I've found, but obviously that can vary. But we'll put $60 in just so we can put something in there. Mandatory retirement. Most people don't have mandatory retirement unless maybe they're a civil servant, but we'll leave that blank. Hardship deduction, that's for children that are from another relationship that are living with the parent. So if the father had other children from some other relationship and he was living with them and supporting them, we could give him a hardship deduction for those children. Child care expenses are a mandatory add-on in California, meaning we have to consider child care expenses as long as it's work-related daycare. We include that in the calculation, and it automatically adds that to the child support amount. So if we put first of all, let's calculate what we have now. See, based on these numbers, father would be paying $991 of child support a month. If we put in $600 of daycare expenses for mother, we'll recalculate it, and that takes it to $1,285 because father is now paying $300 a month for daycare, half of the daycare expenses. Well, we leave that blank for now and go back to percentage of custodial time. And like I said, that defaults to 20% for father, but we can put in anything we want. And we can use this shortcut, which is a table. If we want to put in just a plan like alternate weekends plus half holidays plus half of summer vacation, we can select that and it will tell us that that's about 22%. So we hit OK and see what that gives us. We can put in a minimum amount of visitation, like 5%, which is very minimal. Almost everybody has more than that, but some people may hardly ever see their children, so it might be 5%. We'll recalculate and see how that impacts child support, and you can see it takes it to $1,201 a month. If we go in the other direction and put in essentially a 50-50 parenting plan, we can see how that impacts child support. And that would take it to $316 a month. Again, that's with mother having $6,000 a month income and father having $10,000 a month. So all of these variables work together. So if we took mother's income down to $2,000 a month, you can see that would take child support up to $793 a month. So these are some basic concepts of child support in California. I hope that it's given you some idea of how child support is calculated. It's a lot more complex than this, or at least it can be. Determining what the percentage of parenting time is can be complicated sometimes, and figuring out what people's income is sometimes can be difficult, especially for self-employed people. But I've tried to keep it as basic as possible just to give you an idea of how child support works, what information we put in to determine child support, and how the variables work together to determine what the amount of child support is going to be. And since California is a guideline child support state, the judges don't really have discretion to deviate from this amount. So if the calculation tells us that it's going to be $793 a month, the judge should order $793 a month of child support. There are some exceptions to that, which I'm not going to go into, but that's a general rule of thumb. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial on child support in California, and hopefully you're not involved in a child support case. But if you are, you probably should talk to a qualified attorney in your area. And that's all I have for now. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.